Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to Injustice 2. Several people have requested that I make a lab video for Mr. Freeze. However, since I'm maining Mr. Freeze or Captain Cold, I'm gonna call him Captain Cold from now on, I thought I would make more of like an advanced tutorial for this character. First things first, do keep in mind that I'm not a pro player. I'm just someone who enjoys the game and I think I'm pretty good at it. I've been playing Mr. Freeze or Captain Cold since day one. I think he's a really interesting character, definitely gonna be staying on as my main. So yeah, this is just gonna give you kind of an overview of what to do with him. He's a really interesting character, very setup and trap heavy. Basically, if you can get his game started, the traps and the setups, you can charge his straight and all that, he is really powerful. However, if you can't get that setup, things can quickly fall apart for this character because he does not have that many options when it comes to being up close with your enemy. So again, if things go right, they go really right. If not, you're gonna have a bad time. So one thing you might have noticed is that his movement is fairly average in terms of walk speed. I would even call this a slow walk speed. Jump, nothing special. However, his dashes are great. They cover a huge distance. You can see how far he dashes. He can I can be in there like in 3 dashes from full screen, which is really handy with this character because you can, do his combos and everything. He does have a decent projectile. Well, first of all, before we go in there, let's talk about his jump normals. Nothing special, just like his jump. This is probably his best jump normal, the jump 3 in terms of hitbox. His normals, he has quite a few good normals. We'll get into those a little bit, but one thing I wanted to mention first is zoning with him, since I was gonna talk about the projectile. Mr. Freeze is a decent zoner against non-zoners, if you know what I mean. Like, if I tried doing this in a real match, I would get destroyed by Darkseid because his projectile is really fast. You can see Mr. Freeze's projectile is not the fastest. He also has this wall, which is sort of his counter zoning tool. This wall does absorb projectiles, and if you kick it out, it will do that. However, from what I found, I don't know if it's a glitch or I'm just mistiming it. I think other people have noticed this before, that sometimes projectiles just seem to randomly go through the wall without any explanation. Again, don't know if this is a glitch or I'm just screwing something up, but do keep in mind that that has happened and it can happen to you. His setup moves, we're gonna get into these later, but he has this icicle. You can aim it. You can do a really far one by pressing down forward up, which I didn't know about for quite a while. You have far one, medium one, and close one. EX, it sets up an ice wall, which is really good because your projectiles can go through this, but it will absorb one projectile from the enemy. However, in terms of this being a good counter zoning tool, it's really not because it does take quite a while to fire this. So against a good zoner like that shot, you're just gonna be hit. Finally, he has this ice puddle, which is a low, and you can end the string in it, and you can meter burn it. This is pretty much his only combo starter that doesn't involve his straight. And what you saw there is basically Mr. Freeze's combo. He doesn't really have many options other than that. Interesting thing about this is that if you EX it normally, this does set up a trap. So if your opponent walks into this, they will get frozen. Finally, down forward 3 is this ice aura. Put your enemy into it, they are gonna take damage. Honestly, this is probably the one move that's not that good because first of all, it takes a long time to set up. Secondly, he has a better version of this with his straight, so yeah, it does freeze enemies if you can get this set up, but again, he can do the same thing with his trait, and really, when are you ever gonna be able to set this shit up? In a real match, probably never. Alright, let's go ahead and get into Mr. Freeze's moves, because I covered some, but let's go into his actual normals. Down 2 is amazing. He has a really good down 2. He goes really low to the ground, and he anti-airs with his gun, and the gun does not have a hurt box, so this is a pretty good down 2. Not pretty good, it's very good. This is a very good down 2. Down 1 is one of the few low down ones. It's really good because, oh yeah, by the way, so mention this is an ability, so you won't be able to use this in ranked matches. I just have this set up, or I can fire this into the air. But yeah, that's besides the point. So down 1 is a low, which is really good, and it's also special cancelable. It's not special cancelable into this. You'll see it looks like that hit, but it doesn't. If you look at the combo meter, you'll see that, yeah, it doesn't work. In fact, the puddle doesn't really work off of anything. That doesn't combo. It only really works off this move, which we'll get into later. But his down 1 is amazing. You can cancel it into this, push your opponent far away, and people really don't expect a lot of the times to have a down low poke. So they're gonna be stand blocking and you can just hit them with this. Push them full screen, get your shit set up. And finally, his sweep is absolutely terrible. Look at how little range it has. This is an absolutely shitty sweep. Do not use it. I've always gotten screwed by this when I tried using this online, so I would stay away from the sweep. In terms of strings, you can see that Mr. Freeze does not have a lot. In fact, out of all these 3, you can pretty much forget about this one. The 2-1-3. Not good. Not good at all. The strings you want are this, this, and these 2, which is basically the same thing. This is his only overhead. Special cancelable. You can chain 2 of these together in the corner to get a combo. Only problem with this is it starts off with a high. Now the problem with this is that people, especially online, tend to be extremely mash happy. They're going to be mashing low pokes and all that. So a lot of times I found that I was hit out of this. And that's really frustrating. Probably the best thing to do is knock your opponent down and go straight into the string. So by the time they're standing up, they're already going to have to be dealing with the overhead. Another thing this string is really good for is because it knocks away, you can go into charging your trait. I'll get into his trait a little bit more. Next string is this one. This, just on its own, is a shit string. It's all highs. Like, why would you want a string that's all highs? I think it's probably the only one that's all highs like that. However, this is another string for setting up his trait. You can go into this and then immediately charge. Next up, this string 4-2-3 and the 4-2-3-3. This is your bread and butter. This is a great string. It's a forward advancing mid. Very good range on it. I think it is, yeah, this one is 0 on block, so it's great for staggering. You can go this and then go into this and then go into this. So staggering is a, oh shit, no, we don't want to knock him to the other arena. I don't want to do that. And you can just finish with this. And this is -6, so you're still safe. Also forward advancing, so yeah, you can use this to move around. However, most of the times you're going to be canceling this. Alright, let me go ahead and show you what a basic combo with Captain Cold looks like. You do the 4-2 into the low, charge. Decent damage, 9 hits, fairly easy. Only problem is that you have no mix-ups here. So you're pretty much going to have to hit your opponent with a whiff punish or something along the lines, or just outspace him. Because again, there is no mix-up here. They can just low block this all day and then just poke through this. However, as you see, it does deal decent damage, and there are several different ways to end this. One is you can just go for damage. So you can just end with this and yeah, you just did damage. You can do what I would call a bullshit setup. A bullshit setup would be like this, and then you go into this. Now I call this a bullshit setup because this is not really a real setup. Going into this, you know, or I'm gonna have to do the whole thing. But if you knock your opponent down like this and set this up, they will be able to wake up. Especially characters with a good wake up, like, I don't know, Firestorm, and I think Superman has a good one as well. You know, the ones that advance forward really quickly, they are gonna fly straight out of this setup, even if you do it close to you, because they're gonna hit you before. However, what is a real setup, and probably the one you should be going for, is his straight charge setup. God, that's hard to say. Which is when you end with a string and go immediately into charging your cold gun. The cold gun is incredibly useful. There are 3 levels, level 1 and level 2 and of course level 3. Now you can use these, so even if you have it charged to level 3, you can use the level 1 skill and then still have one for the level 2. So what do these do? Well, level 1, as you saw, it creates an ice spike around Mr. Freeze or Captain Cold. The only thing this does is if your opponent is hitting you, they are going to be taking damage. Let's have Darkseid record something. Oops. Fuck. I'm not good with Darkseid. I'm just going to point that out. Alright. What does he have? Like, yeah, this. I'm not going to be able to set it up though. That's the problem. Yeah. Okay. There's no way to really show this, I think. But just know that the opponent will take damage if they're hitting you while you're buffed up like this. It's really interesting because you can troll people, you know, if you're like, if you have the life lead, they're very close to death. You can't just set this up and you can be like, come on, fucking hit me. And they hit you and they're gonna die. So you can troll like that. Level 2 setup is the real interesting one. This is the one that you should be doing. You press forward and 4. And you fire this ice bomb, which creates a much larger area of effect of this, basically. And as you saw, if Darkseid stays in this long enough, first of all, it also slows movement and also jumping speed and all that. If they stay in there long enough, which it's pretty hard to get out of, especially since you can set up one of these and keep the opponent in there, they will freeze. And the freeze is unblockable. And it does allow you to go in for a full combo. So you can do something like that. I knocked him out of it, but yeah, if I hadn't knocked him out of it, he would be frozen. Now where this is really dangerous is in the corner. So yeah, if we push him there, if I had this charged up, you can, you know, push him to the corner with one of your moves. And this is where, you know, I talked about the back 2-3-2 string. This is why it's useful. And then you have your opponent here. You keep pressuring because it's really easy to pressure in the corner. And they're almost frozen. I think I knocked him out of it because I knocked him too high. But you get the idea that it is possible to set this up. You can also set it up off of the 1-2-2. It also works mid-screen like this, and you know, you can keep your opponent in there. If they have bad zoning, this is the one thing you gotta watch out for, is obviously if you're shooting projectiles and they get frozen, and you already have a shot fired, it is gonna knock them out of it. But yeah, you can go and do your regular combo and charge your gun again and continue the pressure. So that is your basic game plan. You can also do the bullshit setup. Believe me, a lot of people get hit by this, because you can even do something like this. They just don't expect it and they'll try to block and all that. And they're just gonna keep getting hit and they're gonna be really frustrated. But again, he can zone as well. So if you wanna just keep your opponent there, someone like Bane is easy to keep out. Well, actually, the one thing I found is Bane is probably the one character where you want to use this, the EX Cold Gun, because that will break his armor. But anyone who else doesn't have good zoning, I don't know, so many characters do in this game that I can't even think of one. Maybe like Robin or something. When they get close, you can just do the wall and push them away again. So you can't do that. However, if you do encounter like a dedicated zoner, Deadshot, Firestorm, you're gonna get beaten every time. And then it's better to just go up close and engage them, because you're not going to win the zoning war. That's one of these things, even though he looks like a zoner, he's really not a dedicated zoner. What other problems does Captain Cold have? Well, it's that his gameplay is incredibly predictable. He basically has no mix-up. This is his only low, And aside from, you know, these command normals, this is his only overhead. So it is extremely easy to block against him. And the thing is, this is unsafe and this is super unsafe. So you have to be pretty good at hit confirming to basically stay safe against your opponent. Once again, if your traps and your setups fall apart, you can't charge properly. Some characters let you charge easier than others. If you can't set up all of this, you're just gonna have a bad time because, again, he does not really bring anything to the table in terms of like being able to stay up close. This is a decent wake up, I will say that. So just keep that in mind. Finally, let's talk about his corner setups. Most of the times I would go for the bomb as a corner setup. However, he does have overheads and lows if you can set them up. Oops, I should go to the corner. This is really interesting. Doesn't get huge damage off of it, but you'll see. So you can go, and then if your opponent doesn't wake up, they respect it. This is pretty much an instant overhead low. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to block that? Again, I wouldn't call this the greatest setup on earth because people, as you know, are extremely wake up and poke happy online, and this will break any wake up will break this, but you can do something like set it up and block, and they'll get hit anyways because they're gonna be in the wake up phase, and then you can just punish. That's a corner combo. You can do this and then go into charge, or go into the setup I just showed. This is very good because it's very, very instant. Pretty much impossible to block, I would say. Finally, let's go ahead and show you his super, because I might as well. Honestly, there hasn't been an instant where I've had super with this guy. He is extremely meter dependent, that's the other thing, so you gotta keep that in mind. Any of his combos, his one combo needs meter, so just keep that in mind. The chances of you having super are slim to none, but this is what he looks like. It's actually pretty cool. How the hell he's going up that hill, I have no idea, but yeah, that's what his super looks like. Does decent damage, but again, the chances of you ever having this are basically non-existent. Oh, almost forgot. What is his level 3 trait? Honestly, it's not more useful than his level 2. It is a giant cold blast, and you can use this as a thing to combo with. Probably the only way to combo from... Wait, that doesn't combo. I did not actually know this because I never used this, but you can still only combo off of this, I guess. Yeah. It's basically an instant freeze, not unblockable, but a mid, so just keep that in mind. I guess if you have it charged and your opponent tries to jump in, you can just whack him out of the air. But again, most of the times you want the grenade, because the grenade is so much more useful. And plus, getting this to charge, to level 3 charge, is pretty difficult. Level 2 is okay, you can get to level 2, but 3 is unlikely to happen. So that's basically Mr. Freeze / Captain Cold. One thing I would say, always charge your trait. Do your setups, even if they look like the bullshit setup. Rely on your spacing and keep away and traps instead of mix-ups to do damage, and you'll do well. If you can get things started, like I said at the beginning, you are gonna be good. So that's Captain Cold / Mr. Freeze. I promise I will be starting ranked matches or player matches soon. I just want to level up these characters before I get started. Level them up in the multiverse and all that. So for now, hopefully you found this guide useful, you can use it. And definitely try out Captain Cold, because I think he's a lot of fun as a character. Really interesting. One of the more unique characters in the whole game with how he plays. Hopefully you enjoyed this guide. If you did, make sure to like the video, sub if you want to. There are more Injustice tutorials and videos coming, so thanks for watching and goodbye.